What is everyone talking about right now? Oh, Sevis is Andre. All right, Princeton. Is he a track athlete? What is this? Okay, all right. Men's track and field. Versatile skill set here. All-time school. Number one all-time in school history in the heptathlon. Okay, all right. I'm intrigued.
How's it going? Welcome to Bestball with Bindles. Today we have a very special guest, the one and only Chris Spags. He is the preeminent AR influencer in the game. And how's it going today, sir?
I'm glad to be here. I mean, I think one thing that's important in this industry is going to be to always be unique. And I got to tell you, you're the only best ball stream opening with a Andre Yosevich clip. I think that infringes on several Pete copyrights at the same time. So yeah, I think that works well. And I'm glad you're planting your flag.
You know, one of my friends, I'm a big Dynasty guy. And one of my friends who I had co-owned a couple teams with and just whatever, talked to all day, every day about everything fantasy. We were calling him the next Christian Watson in the pre-draft process. He got drafted with the Bengals, and then he just had 10 targets in his first preseason game. So, the bit is going strong, and we're gonna keep it rolling. So, I need Chip Chasing to play the clip one time. Maybe he catches a touchdown in preseason. Maybe Tyler Boyd gets hurt. Who knows? We're not wishing that upon anyone, but
he's already looking better than Charlie Jones, so that's a positive, who I think is like 25 years old, but was really good at Purdue, so I kind of had a faint flag plan on him in the back of my head that I never wanted to say out loud to anybody. But Yosevich is like a freak athlete, so you got a shot if nothing else. You're live.
I mean, honestly, yeah, he is a complete freak athlete. Like, I think if you're gonna bet on a late round wide receiver, like that's the profile I want to target. So
for sure.
Do you want to hop into a draft really quick? I know we got a hard out at 2 p.m., but I guess like what else? Let's see. Let's talk about your guys. Like your guys are AR. Pittman, are you still? Is that still one of your guys that you're planting your flag on, or?
Yeah, Pittman's just kind of attached to AR. I mean, there's been nothing that scared me off of that take overall. I would say in terms of but it's just a proxy bet on AR. And I think it's one where, people like Anthony Richardson, they don't take Pittman. So that's part of what the logic that puts me there, where I know there are people who like AR as much as I do, but have a hard time making that click. But in terms of the guys that I think will really decide my year, it's going to be Christian Watson. It's going to be George Pickens. It's going to be these like downfield guys who I think have a level that they have left to hit. And I think nothing scared me off of that. Like in terms of a week of preseason, like that one Pickens play, I think was so exciting to see him do, because that was just something he didn't have in his bag last year.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm not a huge Pickens guy, but the thing is like, he's a second-year wide receiver and he was coming off an ACL tear. So like you have to bake that in. And I still think people are not really fully like baking that in. And the fact that Kenny Pickett, like improving year 1 to year 2, and then those are the profiles you want to bet on the year 2 wide receivers. So
yeah, and an offense too, where the rubber's meeting the road there. Like Matt Canada has to be better this year. Pickett has to be better this year too, or else there's potential for a change. Definitely going to be a change if they're not good offensively at OC. So I think Pickens is really live, freak athlete too. And like you mentioned, the ACL tear last year, certainly giving him a little bit less runway. And I think that all bodes well for a guy that you should be drafting when we do enter this room.
Yeah, and then on the AR front, like I know we know your bags are packed. I honestly, I think I don't find myself clicking. Like I think a lot of times the quarterbacks I'm clicking in that range are stacked up, like a Geno, like a Dak, like a Tua. So I have been trying to pick up more lately, but it's just like I don't find myself drafting Pittman very much. I think from my dynasty background, I don't love Pittman. And so, yeah, just hasn't fell like to me that much. But yeah, definitely going to try to get him, because I think at that cost, pairing him with one of those other quarterbacks in that quarterback window in the like 10th round range, I think is a nice move there, where you kind of get to pair some floor with some ceiling, and you can still stack it up. So.
Yeah, him and Tua is one of my favorite duos, but him and Watson too, same thing. Him and Daniel Jones, kind of similar players, I think, where you have some questions about the stacks value, but no, there's going to be a rushing floor. So I think there's a lot of ways it can go. And I think with the first game too, with what happened there, where an interception that wasn't his fault, which they were very clear to make say publicly multiple times with both the receiver and the coaching staff, it wasn't AR's fault in that first pick. And then he threw the nice breadbasket catch there, it appears that he just could not get there. But I think, I feel good about the bags, but all it takes is another knee sprain to Kendra Miller, and then you have to start questioning everything once again.
I mean, I think that's probably the best case scenario. Knee sprain. I think, hopefully he'll be good by the start of the season. So yeah, I have some pretty heavy Kendra bags as well. So my fingers have been crossed on that one, that everything's okay.
Yeah, you never want to see a knee injury going down that fast. The same knee that he hurt in January too, but we'll survive. He'll be back for week 1, and hopefully he'll earn his way back in after that.
Yeah, you mentioned Watson there. I think Watson is like a big target for me. I don't love taking Amari Cooper at that cost. I just think there's profiles that I'd rather bet on, in terms of either like Debo, just like he could just go off and have another 300-point season. If Kittle gets hurt, if Ayuk gets hurt, if CMC gets hurt, and Christian Watson. I know you're a big Christian Watson guy, so I'm glad we're both on the same boat there. But yeah, I mean, Christian Watson, you look at his measurables, you look at his yards per route run, his targets per route run, he pretty much hit everything you're looking for, even though it was really down the stretch, which is what you want from rookies. So I think those two guys, even Keenan Allen, I think I prefer to Amari Cooper. But yeah, I think Watson, he really presents that like top 5 quarterback upside at a depressed ADP. And so I've been targeting him a lot. I really think, obviously, like, he's not a good guy, so you don't want to really support him, but just from like a pure football standpoint, I think he really, like, that offense, they're going to pass way, way, way more, I think. And I'm targeting all the Browns at cost. So.
Yeah, and Watson's been a top 5 QB every time he's played a full year, so I think that's still something that holds true to me. And I am more of an Amari Cooper believer than you. Like, he's not as old as everybody thinks. He's still, not 30. I believe, at least the last time I looked that up, when I had to make the same argument. Still not 30. Like, still has been a veteran. Obviously, the miles are starting to add up, but that matters less for the receivers than it does for some of the other spots. And he was so good last year. Like, a lot of the best Browns moments were Cooper having these outlier games and showing a ceiling. Having more out there, having, another year of DPJ being better. If Tillman pushes for snaps, it's not great, but I think overall, like, even if the target share comes down, he might be a little more efficient. And he was already a great guy in all the estimated points addict metrics and the DVOA and all that stuff that I swear by and as part of my process this year.
Yeah, I think for him, like, I'm definitely in on him. Like we said, all the elements about the offense being better. It's been weird. He's always been like around like a 22 target share guy for his whole career. Last year, in kind of a weird situation with a quarterback who might like lock onto him a little bit more, being like a career backup, I think he was up around 25%. So I think like both of those elements, one's kind of moving up and rising the whole tide of the offense, and the other one is like, I think he kind of is what he is. But I think overall, like, he's fine at cost. But yeah, I'm not like, he's not one of my guys, but yeah. And especially in that range, like, I prefer the Josh Jacobs, the Breece Halls, obviously. But if those guys are gone, like, I'm good with him. So.
All right, we hopping in here. I'm ready to draft something. I've been chomping at the bit now because I haven't drafted a team in 15 minutes.
You know what? Being a best ball influencer, it's a sickness, and you got to get it in, especially in August. It's like something's in the air.
Something is in the air, absolutely. Both with what we're drafting and what everybody else is drafting out there.
Absolutely. We got to give a shout out to our boy Tyler. How big of a freak is he under the shorts? He has to get his horny comments in. It's
that's his brand now, and it started. I wouldn't say it started with your show, but it probably reached its crescendo during your show for him having all that open air space from not having Mathology on. You really got to embrace his horn dog ways.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have Mathology on. He had a family emergency, so he couldn't make it. But we're cooking something up, and he'll be on with Tyler shortly. So
tease.
All right, you guys want to hop into a draft?
Let's do it. This is going to be the first time I've not drafted my own team on a draft in a while, so we can actually pool together our thoughts and debate players, and you're going to take guys. I'm going to go like, I can't believe that Bindles is taking this guy.
Yeah, I want to pull a little bit of a Pete where I kind of like default to you a little bit just to like, because I do think, especially after so many drafts, you get so stuck in your ways. So I think it is good to kind of have someone to push you off your spots. So even with Tyler, when we were drafting, like, we agreed on a lot of player takes, but there definitely was some areas where, like, just structurally the way we draft and places we go. So I'm excited to draft with you and hear your perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing, and I was thinking about it too while I was watching Pete's stream this morning and then do mine. I didn't bring it up, but I really think the one thing that's weird, and I know you were talking about it as we're drafting in the 112, the famous Pete 112 is what it is for this year.
The influencer 112.
But yeah, like, the running back thing, it's just so easy to take running backs this year. And everybody talks about how, oh, yeah, the receivers ADPs have come up too high. But what if that just lessens the value of every receiver taken after the 7th rounds? Like, what if it's now, instead of 5 through 10 or 4 through 7, which have been the things that were always what you're trying to draft receivers at, to stay ahead of the avalanches and make sure you have adequate draft capital in. What if it's just you got to go like extreme 0 RB to actually get good receivers this year? And I think that's one thing I've wondered about, or at least maybe not good receivers, but guys who are going to give you 20 as opposed to 10. And, and Pat won last year. Pat Corain, of course, won Bestball Mania 3 with, I would say 10-point guys more than 20-point guys, because he had the big Eckler week and then also had the Brady stuff and all that. But I think, it's one thing that could be a blind spot this year. It's just how comfortable it is to draft running backs, and then just what receivers might mean. If everybody's steamed up, then it's almost like every room kind of inherently becomes an avalanche.
Yeah, I think that's something I've really been wrestling with is just how wide receiver heavy underdog is being half-point PPR. Like, it's just, I think, and it's also weird because I think everyone now, because of the 3rd round running backs and kind of like everyone thinking they're being value there, that everyone is structuring, not everyone, but people in our niche area are structuring their teams so similarly that I'm trying to kind of get weird and just like take an Isaiah Pacheco, take some random dead zone running backs where I'm like, maybe we just, get a wide receiver in that range that hits, and, we get another running back that correlates and hits as well. So I don't know. I think being too comfortable is the only like wrong thing. Like, I don't want to fall into that same pattern over and over again. And that's what I'm trying to do, is have guests on, switch up my exposures and just think differently. So,
yeah, that's one thing that I think I've heard Hayden Winks say before too, is like talking about the idea of drafting uncomfortably, and how if you're drafting, optimally, for the most part, you're going to feel uncomfortable at least one position. And that was something that I thought was crystallizing, because last year I was a 0 RB piss boy kind of guy taking receivers, but then you take 8 receivers and you diminish the value of what it means to be a 0 RB guy. So I think if you're drafting 0 RB this year, it's like you take 6 receivers through 7, maybe even through 6, and that's your haul receiver. Maybe you take one more later on. I think that's been the thing for me, is like drafting a little bit uncomfortably at running back where I'm not taking surplus there, drafting a receiver where I'm not taking a surplus there. That's been my version of drafting uncomfortably, but I think that's an ethos of the year, because this year is like the coziest ADP pocket if you like drafting running backs and having like a balanced team.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really weird. I think it's just, it's weird, the pockets too, because I feel like I'm drafting the same types of players in the same pockets like every single draft, like running backs in like the 9th, 10th round with like the Antonio Gibson, A-chain type guys. And then like obviously wide receivers in the middle rounds. And so it's like, I think that is probably right, but I also don't want to just like be like, okay, I need to draft these players in these areas of the draft.
So I was going to say, because you like drafting running backs, so we could take Chubb. We got to take Kelsey here. No, Kelsey at 12 is a smash.
I don't think I've ever seen him fall to 12. I'm not a big Kelsey guy, but at 12, I'm fine. And then where else are you thinking?
I mean, any of these receivers I'd be okay with. Obviously, a little bit of a discount on CD, but he falls at pure talent. I think it's Amon-Ra, but up to you.
You know what? Let's go with the Spags experience. Let's go Amon-Ra. I think that's an interesting combo right there.
Yeah, that's one I can't imagine you're getting a lot of because Amon-Ra doesn't fall very often to that range where you would get Kelsey on underdog at least. So I like that unique combo. Maybe Travis Kelsey and CD would have been slightly more unique, but if we're going talent, I think Amon-Ra's a little more talented, a little better spot than CD is probably.
So what's your knock on CD that you would put Amon-Ra over him? Is it just the offense, and you think that they're going to regress based on the new coach, and what's going on with that?
It's the offense being regressive. Like I really don't believe in having Mike McCarthy call plays and Broughton Scheinheimer as an offensive coordinator is one of those guys that I think we've seen what he can do. And there's not like he's his dad, basically. He's running the same play as his dad would run a while ago. And I think that's something that doesn't bode well when you're going from a young, progressive former QB to a guy who's like, just kind of the nepotism baby, tread worn kind of OC. I think it's a bad sign for the overall offense. But then they also had Brandon Cooks. Maybe some of the running back touches that were there last year don't go anywhere, and instead they go to the pass game. But I just think you're going to see less creative routes, less creative scheme. And anytime you go from a good coach at offensive coordinator to a bad coach or somebody who's at least not, maybe average coach, I think that's something that as fantasy players, we can't account for the right way. But I think it's one of the biggest changes that I've seen happen that sometimes doesn't get read the right way. So I think just Dallas, they're a team that bet on the defense. Like they're going to be good because of that defense, but offensively, they're just going to try to not fuck over the defense basically.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to balance a little bit of like, I do think they're going to regress a little bit to the mean after being such a good offense for the last few years. Like I think top 5 the last 3 years. I think their pace is going to go down. Everything you're talking about, but at the same time, I definitely think like Dak is still pretty slept on from like a real life quarterback standpoint. Like I still think he's going to put up like definitely over 4,000 yards, still maybe like 4,500 yards. And so I'm not out on CeeDee Lamb, but I definitely think, I'm a little bit lower than consensus, but I'm a Lions fan, so I love the ARSB Sun God pick right there.
I think that I've said it on a few streams recently, but it's one that I haven't gotten enough of that full Lion stack where you're getting Amon-Ra, you're getting Jahmyr Gibbs, you're getting Laporta. Like one of these guys usually goes off ADP in a way where I'm not able to get all 3 of them together. But I think that's one of the best, like to capture what a team is going to be this year kind of stacks. And honestly, with Gibbs and Montgomery, like with ADPs, and I just don't love taking running backs from the same backfield. Those guys are going to score touchdowns in very different ways where I think you could get away with taking Gibbs and Montgomery more than you could Robinson and Gibson or, A-Chain and Mostert or whatever. So I think it's an interesting team to go heavy on, and I wouldn't mind taking Gibbs if he's there when we get back.
Yeah, I was going to say we should target Gibbs if he's there, which I feel like he usually is. He's been getting pushed up a little bit just with all the camp hype and everything. But yeah, I think the Lions, like they don't really have much other than Amon-Ra, other than I guess Gibbs and Laporta, like who, you know what I mean? Jameson Williams, maybe he comes back. I still don't think Jameson Williams is going to be a big target earner. Like I think he'll probably get his 4 or 5 targets per game and he'll have some big plays. So for best ball, that's fine. But from an overall offensive environment standpoint, like Amon-Ra could honestly have 10 targets a game. Like,
and he's also so unlucky with touchdowns last year where it's like, a lot of that success of Jamal Williams was because that Amon-Ra kept getting stopped at the 1 to 5 yard line. I'm sure you saw that and were more frustrated by it as a Lions fan, but he's going to run better on that stuff. And he, just adding more depth to his route tree, I think will be a positive too. But the safety blanket thing, there's just a lot of outs for Amon-Ra or am I mispronouncing his name? I've been mispronouncing his name this entire time.
I always thought it was Amon-Ra, but I'm not.
Is it one of those where he would be like, "Oh no, it's actually Amon-Ra," and he would correct me, or is it one where he's like, "I get it both ways, and it's okay"?
Hey, at least if I can pronounce Yoshivas right, that's all I can ask for. So,
you fucking better if that's your brand. You're opening streams with highlights of.
No, you know what? I actually I was watching YouTube videos of him doing interviews. So I was like, okay, I know it's not from another source. It's a primary source from his mouth. This is how to pronounce it.
So we're getting the running back steam here. Najee goes early, which is always fun. You always know that's a smart drafter when Najee goes this early in the 3rd round. But no Jahmyr Gibbs for us. That's the downer part of it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm fine with it. We still have some outs for some Detroit later on. I think one guy that I'm actually higher on than most people is Brandon Cooks. I think last year it's being overblown. Like he basically just quit on the team. But if you look at his analytics, like he really basically was very similar to Tyler Lockett, and he's actually a year younger than Tyler Lockett. So I think he's being discounted a little bit just because of like just the gross feel of last year. So, okay, we're on the clock. Let's see here. Breece Hall, I'm always down for. But what are you thinking here?
I could do well. Wait, we have Kelsey and Amon-Ra. Yeah, I think Breece is fine. Yeah, no issue with Breece. And I would say let's take Watson if we're going to make this one of my drafts. I mean, do you have enough Watson? Is there anybody you're light on here?
No, I prefer Watson over those two easily.
Okay,
So,
yeah, let's do Watson. All green teams here for this round.
You know what? I really like that. I really like this start. I mean, I think Amon-Ra Watson, like that's a pretty like for not taking wide receivers in round 1. That's a really strong start there. And then we get the boost with our advance rate, hopefully with Kelsey, and then Breece Hall. I if I could be like 100% Breece in my drafts, I probably would be. I think he's the one profile that like outside of like the Eckler and the Bijan, like I think if he were healthy all of last year, he'd be going like the same spot as Bijan or even ahead of him. So I think I just like to lean into the uncertainty there and just hope that he is fully recovered. But you know, we all have a small chance of winning anyway, so I'm going to bet on the talent there. So.
Yeah, Breece is one of those guys where, like, you know, again, I still think that you're going to be benefited by going 0 RB in these early rounds just because people are now afraid to go 0 RB because they don't want to miss out on these values and Josh Jacobs and Ramondre and like Tony Pollard, all the names they didn't get to click last year, maybe didn't click enough. I still think you're going to benefit by getting away from that. That said, if I were going to take a running back in the first 4 rounds, let's say, it's Chubb, it's Bijan, or it's Breece because of the profile. And honestly, I'd throw Gibbs in there too. But like those 4, I think have the best mix of youth and an offensive situation and also some amount of safety to it where like Bijan's worst case scenario is being Tyler Algier last year. You got Algier in the 140s, 150s, 160s. So that's obviously felt a lot better. But Algier was in my lineups a lot of weeks last year. Like he was the guy who was driving that value. Him and Ramondre and Tony Pollard were like the 3 low ADP guys who drove a lot of my teams. So I think if you're getting that from Bijan, that's a safety level that you don't have to worry about. Whereas Eckler, it's like, okay, this offense is going to be a lot more vertical. This offense is going to be hopefully a little more 2023 than the Joe Lombardi one that they had last year. So that's something to me where I think you can make poke holes in Eckler. You could poke holes in Christian McCaffrey, like the workload not being there. So
I think CMC is like one of my biggest like fades at cost. I think. Yeah. Like I prefer Kupp, I prefer Tyreek over him. Even Kelsey, I feel like I'm not a huge Kelsey guy, but I just feel like their offense. Obviously, every year we say this where we go in and it's like the projectable volume. It's hard to like bet on it just because there's so many talented players in that offense. But yeah, like you said, like I just think they like to spread it around, and there's like they don't want to give CMC like 25 touches a game. Like I think that's not what they want. Like if someone gets injured, if Debo gets injured, if someone else gets injured, then they can lean on him for a few weeks span, but it's not the plan. And I think we're still holding on to the like CMC of old of just like just getting massive receiving volume. And I'm not sure it's still really there. So yeah.
He's just getting older, and it's like, again, I just think it's team motivation stuff where the Niners are a good team. So like they're a good teams score more points because they win more games. Like that's how that logic goes. That said, for the Niners, they've gone to this now for multiple years in a row where they go into the final round or, their final round, and it's teams banged up completely. They were going to sign Phillip Rivers last year. Apparently, if they made it to the Super Bowl, it's McCaffrey's calf is hurt. Like you want to minimize the chance of that as much as you can. And the way you do that is by giving McCaffrey 15 to 20 high value touches. But when the game is out of hand, you bring in Elijah Mitchell, you bring in Jordan Mason if he's active, you bring in maybe TDP if he somehow gets active. But I think that's the thing with San Francisco where they don't win by running McCaffrey 30 times a game. They win by saving McCaffrey for when it matters and having him still have the full juice. And I think people just don't get that because they view McCaffrey as like this binary inevitable thing. And I think he's anything but that.
No, that's a really strong take right there. I agree with that. I think, I really, what are your thoughts on Purdy? Because I was fully on the Trey Lance bandwagon or like whatever pre-draft early in the off season. I think he's a really, really good value right now. Like I still don't understand why he's going where he's going. Like I know he's gotten pushed up a little bit, but I just think like if this were insert San Francisco quarterback that was not Brock Purdy, I feel like he'd be going a few rounds higher. I don't know. I mean, like I don't love him, but just with those pass catchers, I think it's a pretty nice bet there.
Yeah, if you're betting on the Niners, you bet on Purdy. I think the one risk is just that he played maybe above his head last year. But I think that's hard to say. You could say that about anybody. And if you go into the year and they're giving the full signal of him being the guy again, I think that's fair. But I just think there's a chance that he loses the job. Like, they're really running him back fast from this elbow thing. And that's the one cause for concern. There haven't been any practice reports of him killing it in practice either. It's been like, Brock Purdy's okay. Trey Lance is like fucking up or okay. And then Darnold was good this day. And like, there's been nothing though where it's like Purdy was lights out. And that, gives you a little bit of concern.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like Nick Mullins put up like pretty great numbers, all things considered, in that offense. So like, I don't even think he really has to be that good. So yeah, but we're on the clock here. We got a falling Joe Burrow, but we don't have any correlation. It does not make sense.
We do have Kelsey, but there's not going to be anybody that great left to go with Burrow. I would go Madison maybe for the first one.
You want to go Madison? Okay.
Yeah, I think because for the Green Bay correlation, I feel like the usage for Minnesota looked good enough that I think Madison's probably a little bit undervalued.
Okay, and then I think we got to go receiver here. Who's your guy in this range? We could go Addison to do another correlation there. We could do Lockett. I'm good with any of these guys.
I don't know if I want to make you reach for Addison here because I feel like we're losing some value on the lineup potentially. Yeah, let's do Addison. Because like Brown, I don't have the strongest feeling for. Lockett, I tend to think is the least appealing of the three Seattle receivers. And we got the bet on Minnesota, Green Bay. We have the Amon-Ra difference maker. I think we're still doing something interesting here.
I really like this because you're pushing me off my spots because I feel like I don't know if I've honestly clicked Madison once, especially since he's moved up. I don't know. Like I think I'd rather just play it through like the Ty Chandler. I think Ty Chandler's probably going to be the RB2 now, but I think Madison has performed well when he's been given opportunity. I'm just not sure they really want to give him like the full like Alexander Madison when Dalvin Cook was out workload of like whatever 20-25 touches. I think it might be a little bit more of like a split backfield, and so at that dead zone price of like pick whatever now 50 in the 50s, I don't love making that bet. But I think if it's correlated, I'm fine with it. That's pretty much where I always fall. So
Madison last year was like an average back. I think he gets a lot of crap online, but he had a really high avoided tackle rate, 31%. That was better than Cook. He had minus 0.04 EPA per rush. So like you're basically saying he's not adding a ton of value running it, but he's doing what he's asked. But 0.21 EPA per catch is pretty good, or EPA per target. So like I think he'd be used more in the pass game than he's being used. And I think what jumped out the most to me, and I'll give credit to John Warner from the Badge Bros talking about this a little bit on Twitter, but I thought it was interesting for what he was saying, which is that the usage that Ty Chandler got is probably more of a reflection of what Madison is going to get than anything. And like, I think that's the read, is that Chandler's probably an okay handcuff guy / like he'll get, maybe some pass game work if he continues to look good there. But I think Madison is going to be like a 20 touch back. And they showed last year that they don't mind, just giving inefficient touches away, even still if Madison isn't that good. Like they gave a lot to Dalvin, and Dalvin wasn't good last year. But just the Vikings are an analytic friendly team. I tend to think, teams like that do look at the similar numbers that I try to cite a lot. And I think with them, like, I think it's going to be 15 to 20 touches for Madison. And he'll do what he does with them, but he's shown enough signs of life for me that I think, especially if you have Green Bay, like he's probably the week 17 back if everything goes right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bull case for him is like a little bit of like a David Montgomery-ish type role. I know that sounds gross, but like, I mean, David Montgomery, he does everything well. Like he'll give you decent running production. He will stay on for third downs and give you some dump off production there. So, and he has touchdown upside as well. So I think all those elements, like I'm fine with it. I just, like I said, I don't love taking RBs and like that. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison range. it kind of grosses me out. So I'm glad you're pushing me off my spots. So
yeah, I just tend to think that running back. So this is also one of my big macro theses that I think is now playing out over a couple years. Where like last year, one of the bets I made with Pete in the preseason on Splash Play was that there wouldn't be a running back who gets 25 touches. That happened. I think that was the first time ever that a running back, not a single one, crested over an average 25 touches per game. And the highest was Derrick Henry at 23.9. So what if this year there's no, or maybe there's less than 5 running backs to get over 20 touches. If that's the case, then the whole thing kind of levels out when you account for just the injury mechanisms of running backs, like the stuff we talked about with McCaffrey. Like, I think that this is the year where we really see it start to get even more noticeable that running backs are just this flat position, almost like tight ends, where you have your Travis Kelce's, you have your Andrews, but running backs for the most part are just guys who cycle in and out and just kind of get the same touches. And some of them are going to be good on good teams. Some of them are going to be bad. But I think that's part of the reason too, where like if Madison's going to get volume on an offense, that's pretty good. I think that bodes well. If Breece Hall's going to be on a top 5 Super Bowl odds team and be the guy that he was pre-injury, like that bodes well. Javonte, if the Broncos are competent, like he's probably got some bell cow in him with a little bit of Pirine mixed in. So those are the bets I'm making the most of, but it is a macro bet that I think goes against, 10 years of data. And that's the hard part for a lot of people.
No, I mean, that is a good insight there, like in terms of just thinking about it from like an overall NFL like trends standpoint. Yeah, it's pretty much every backfield is a split backfield now. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, why pay up for these guys who are perceived as having this huge workload? And in reality, it's not that much of a difference.
And some of them too have been saying like vocally that, we get the success in the field and then they pay us less because we've had this many touches. So I think the running backs too are aware. I don't know any players ever going to say, give me less work, but there could be sort of a shift to that where they're going to be like, hey, I need to preserve myself. So I'm still getting money when I'm 27, 28. I don't know if that full shift happens this year, but there's enough headwinds, I think, to say that this is a bet worth making when you also combine it with the fact you're getting difference now with these cozy running back ADPs.
All right, we are back on the clock. Let's see what is up here. Wide receiver, we have Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore. Tight end, we're definitely not taking a tight end. We got James Conner, DeAndre Swift, James Cook, who's been getting steamed up a little bit. And then quarterback, we have Tua, your boy A-Rich, Dak. What are you thinking here?
I would go Elijah Moore here for that correlation, I think. He's a guy I'm a little bit under on. So if you're more of or less of a Cooper guy, I think taking him here is a nice bring back for Breece. There's nobody Cincinnati, right?
Where else? Yeah, I was gonna say, what other correlations do we have here? Detroit, Dallas, no.
I wouldn't hate Sky here because you're basically getting the KC bet without the full stack. I don't think that'd be crazy, but
yeah, Sky or Traylon, where's your gut taking you?
I think as we have Kelce at this weird value, we should kind of increase the Kansas City a little bit more. Whereas like Traylon, yeah, we could take him here, but he's a 2-pick discount that everybody gets, or people get enough frequency wise. Whereas for us, we got the discount Kelce. There's going to be Kelce more teams, but I don't think there's going to be Kelce more teams with Amon-Ra. So that I feel like is sort of our lever to push a little bit more.
Yeah, and like I think Sky Moore is a pretty good pick. Like I know last year he bit us in the ass with just all the steam, but I mean, he's the starting slot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like if Juju can give you like a decent season, I think Sky Moore is better than Juju. So, I mean, I don't know. I think he's fine there. Like, I don't think he's really going to bite you in the ass that much unless he gets hurt, which, I mean, anybody could get hurt. So,
yeah, I mean, speaking of, I would have taken Kadarius Toney too. I think would have been a fine pick by me, but I think ADP wise, probably doesn't make sense to reach for Toney at this point when you can get him at like 110. It's still in some drafts, even though he's going to be full go from week 1. I think if you're trying to, this is the thing I try to say is one of my draft strategies, but things to be thinking about more, people don't, is like, what do you want to go into week 17 with? Like if poker wise, you're going to pull your hand, you're going to show, hey, here's all the cards I have. What do you want? I think it's Kadarius Toney against Cincinnati, and then some bring back on that end is like probably the best bet you can make on KC because you're getting Toney so much cheaper than Kelce. We know that Toney can put up 3 touchdowns in a game and theoretically have 150 yards. I don't know if that'll be the case in the Chiefs quite as much, but I think because we want a full season here, and I don't want to subject you to my Kadarius Toney takes, we'll take Sky Moore. But I just like Toney to me is like he's an alpha guy, and I know people will like hate him so much, but he's just been so good whenever he's gotten a shot. And this is the year where they were like, wide receiver one, just because he hurt himself doesn't scare him off of that, I don't think.
I mean, he's just so talented. It's just
Yeah.
I can never fully be out on him. Like it's just even that what was it, the one game against the Saints where he put up like whatever 100 and something yards and almost had a few touchdowns. Like, I mean, if you're gonna bet on a talent, bet on the one with Patrick Mahomes, right? So.
Mhm. Yeah, just probably ping ponging spike weeks and stuff for the most part with these guys. But with Tony and Kelsey, it's like you have real target earners there. Yeah, Tyler in the chat, you're talking about Eckler being super vocal about preserving his body. Like he's one of the guys who's leading the charge. And like if you think these guys aren't sharing notes and talking about it, like even Najee talked about it publicly, and Najee's terrible and should be fighting for every carry he can get to show he's going to be useful. And I think it's more of a meta game than people realize. And it would be really good for my portfolio if this is the year that the running back stuff like really comes to a head.
I'm just trying to think through some correlations here, but yeah, I think maybe we go quarterback coming up here.
We've got some outs. Jordan Love will still be floating around, which is a guy that I certainly have no issue taking. You might feel differently, but I think with our little bit of Minnesota, we could do Love and then Musgrave later. Wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, you know what? I think everyone is just assuming that Jordan Love is going to be, not everyone, but a lot of people are assuming Jordan Love is just going to be bad. And I want whatever. We haven't seen it. It's just like why make this assumption when we've seen him play in a couple games, and I think he really has some pretty solid weapons like Aaron Jones, Christian Watson. Luke Musgrave has been drawing rave reviews, and Dubs and Jaden Reed. Like, I think there's so much uncertainty there, and we're just saying like, oh, the Packers are losing Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be bad. Like, as a Lions fan, I am terrified of the Packers. I just think they're such a well-run organization that I don't want to bet against them. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that Jordan Love, the one thing he showed last year was a really good game against Philly where he was in for most of that fourth quarter, and he did well against them. But we're on the clock, so what do you want to do? A Boyd bring back would not be crazy.
I'm sorry, would you say that what bring back?
Tyler Boyd bring back for KC, and then we can hold off on receiver for a little.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And then I wouldn't mind. Well, what's Goff's ADP right now?
Goff's ADP is 129. So
all right, so yeah, we can wait on him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Cousins. I'm fine with taking another running back. Let's see, what other running backs do we like here?
I like Charbonnet a lot. Charbonnet or Penny, yeah, either of those.
Yeah,
I would punt on QB if it were me.
Okay, yeah, let's get the full Spags experience. I'm good with Charbonnet. There was a little bit of an injury scare with him, but I still think I like Walker. I think just he presents you that opportunity to give you some big spike weeks just with his breakaway runs. But I think Charbonnet is a really good bet in the pick 100s. I think just he gives you that contingent upside. Maybe he gives you the third down role because I don't think Walker's really catching any passes. And he just has that big contingent upside. So
I think Charbonnet is looming as the starter there. Like maybe not right away. I guess it depends what Walker does in terms of his injury stuff. But Charbonnet, so one of the bets that I like to make is, okay, here's this analytically sound running back who looks really good in terms of like avoided tackle rate, the EPA numbers that I talk about a lot. Like, and then the starter was inefficient. So guys like, and I think this might not be the case for Dameon Pierce, but Walker was like really inefficient last year in all those metrics. He just broke enough big plays that fantasy wise, we look back on that and he smashed ADP. And those things give you kind of a rose colored glasses for him. But in reality, like he had a low success rate, like he had a low EPA per rush rate, like he was like there were a lot of weaknesses there that I think a guy like Charbonnet doesn't have. So to me, like seeing Charbonnet be out in the field after this labrum issue or whatever, and he's just smashing linebackers. Like the hardest hits of the weekend, I think, was Zach Charbonnet on Louis Cine or whatever his name is on the Vikings. I just like to see that. And then I know that, he has the profile that I really like coming in. And I just think that Charbonnet is in kind of a smash spot that you're getting leverage against Walker drafters. You're getting a part of this, the Seattle offense that I think ran a little bit hot with Geno touchdowns last year. Obviously, still making bets on those guys, but I do think they ran kind of hot there. I think it bodes well for Charbonnet at his value. And I think he should come up in ADP too, after how he played in that one game.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like Brian Robinson, like I think he gives you good projectable volume, but I don't know, like you want to bet on the rookies, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like Charbonnet.
Yeah, and Penny too would have been fine. Like we had some nice running backs we can take there, but I think we needed one more running back. And I also just wanted to get some Cincinnati correlation because we do have the unique share of Kelsey. Like I think one thing I've seen a lot since we turned on the Splash Play community stuff and people are sending me more teams and asking for like feedback. The one thing I observe the most, I think that stands out is a lot of people in our audience and just in general, like people watching this stream and whatever, like building good teams, stacked teams, all that stuff. The one thing they're not doing sometimes is doubling down on the gift you get within a draft where, hey, you got this really big ADP faller. That should be the thing you then center a lot of what you're doing around. Like you shouldn't reach for guys, but if you get, let's say, Sky Moore falls when you have a Kelsey that fell, or you have Mahomes fell in a room where Kelsey fell, like you want to take those guys and really build your team and make that the identity of your team, because that's how you win, is like you're going to pass these other teams that had this guy in a less favorable configuration. So for me, that's been a focus too, is like now that I've seen other people who I think are smart drafters, that's the one thing I think smart drafters aren't doing enough, is like you lean in on the edge you got from the room.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah. I think identifying in the draft, okay, this is something that doesn't happen very often. How do I really take advantage in this singular draft? And then if you do that, whatever, over your whole portfolio, that'll really pay off down the road. So
yeah, I agree. I agree with the point that I said, and then you said eloquently as well. And
so let's see. Through 11 rounds, we have Breece Hall, Alexander Madison, Zach Charbonnet at running back. We have a nice Amon-Ra, Christian Watson, Jordan Addison, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, so a little Sky double there, Moore double there, Tyler Boyd bring back, and then a Travis Kelce. So what do you think? I think wide receiver will probably go 7, I would assume. And then running back will probably be 6. Quarterback, TBD. And then tight end, obviously, will probably go a late round guy. Maybe a Jake Ferguson late, I think would be nice. I don't think there's anybody in watching that's in this draft. So I think we're good. But
yeah, I think we've got some flexibility. Would have liked Goff to have fallen back to us. I think that would have been a nice one to get. And then maybe would have made me want to push you towards Laporta for our tight end too. But we still have some outs there, so that's okay. See one guy I think would make sense for our build that we can see what Chad work does.
Cousins almost made it back to us. I think I would have been fine with Cousins there.
Yeah.
As well.
At this ADP, I don't know why he would have fallen this much. I think we take Jaylen Warren as one of the running backs.
Okay. Yeah, I like Jaylen Warren. I like betting against Najee anytime I can. So
yeah, and then we also have the Charbonnet too, so week 17 correlation that way. And then what else do we have available overall?
Running back, we have Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Tyler Algier. Wide receiver, we have Rondale, Michael Gallup. We have Michael Gallup. We could do a Dallas-Detroit.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's because that's like a Cooks bet, too. It's just a different version of Cooks, I think. Like, I would have liked Cooks if he fell to us in that one pocket. I think he went the other side of the board. But I think if we're not going to get Cooks, and we did pass on CeeDee Lamb, it does make sense to get something different there. And we want some bring back for Amon-Ra, just because I think even though we didn't get Goff, I just feel like I want correlations for everything if I can get it at reasonable ADPs.
Yeah, even if you can get a mini, I mean, that's you can get it. We have this is my good friend Logan, who's been on the channel a few times. He is I think the number one Laporta stan in the world. He's constantly sending me blurbs, videos, everything. So we'll see. I think with a Kelsey, I'd like to push it all the way to the 17th, 18th round, but we'll see what value falls to us. We can always.
I wouldn't have minded because of the discount, Kelsey. I wouldn't have minded if we had gotten Goff and Laporta, and then we also tack on Love and Musgrave, where it's like you now give yourself 2 ways to get Kelsey to the finals in a game that's like, I think there's no way where Cincinnati KC won't be the highest total game of that week. So that's something I think about sometimes with Kelsey teams, where people, obviously the most logical way to draft for the most part is you waste that much capital at tight end. You don't want to take another one for, until later in the game. But if you take 2 guys semi-late, like I think Laporta and Musgrave would have been nice guys who are younger and kind of offer you a different lever to Kelsey, even though it's kind of like technically on paper, like a little bit of a wasted draft capital thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's wasted though. I mean, I think it is good leverage off of, like, if Kelsey smashes, there's going to be a lot of Kelsey teams in the playoffs, in the finals. you want to give yourself those different outs to move on to the next round.
Yeah, and you get it on both ways, where if he fails in week 16, you then carry Kelsey in, or he fails week 17 and everybody's got him, and then you got leverage with Laporta and Musgrave or whatever, two late tight ends fill in your favorites there. But I agree with your friend, though. I think that Musgrave I love, but Laporta was one of those guys that I've been taking since the big board. Because I was taking him early, I got him at 16% in BBM, I think, and I've got him mostly in like the 150s to 180 range. So like, I feel good about my Laporta shares, and like, he was such a freak athlete, 33% target per out run rate. The thing that he did really well was he avoided tackles. He had the highest amongst all these rookie tight ends with 33% avoided tackle rate. So like, if he's going to get these dink and dunk plays in a Detroit offense that just tries to check down and get guys some yak ability, like Laporta fits that perfectly. So I love Laporta. I think the public's coming along pretty heavily. Like, he's basically Kincaid territory now, but I think he's worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, because I was talking with my friend, I was looking up some high school highlights, and he was actually a wide receiver in high school. When you watch his highlights, he has some real juice. Like, he's not like a big lumbering tight end. He really has some good movement skills, some good yak ability, like you said. So yeah, I mean, in a wide open offense where there's not a lot of target earners outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he's a great bet at cost. So.
Yeah, and then it was also Iowa like sucked, so like they kind of held him back, even though Iowa tight ends have like this great history of putting out capable pros and all that. But that offense wasn't good, and he still looked great in all these metrics that I look at. And I've said this entire offseason, like, there's a big four tight end at rookies this year, where it's Mayer, it's Musgrave, it's Kincaid, and then it's and Laporta. And that's the four, and they all have landed in really spots, and none of them have done anything in terms of the offseason and training camp that have been like, oh, this guy isn't what I thought he was. Like, if anything, I've only had my priors confirmed. But because tight ends have been bad as rookies for so long, people then don't draft them. And there's a couple flippenings I think will happen in the tight end rookie ones. Like, if you have guys who are good and they get a pathway to routes right away, I just don't think it's the same game as where you had to wait 3 years to be a good tight end in the previous NFL.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a blind spot. Like, I think people are just like, this is what happened in the past with rookie tight ends, and we're not actually looking at the current situation. I do want your thoughts on Kincaid, though. I feel like I was a little bit of a hater early on. I think just like how much people were talking about him, and I don't think he's a great bet, but in Bestball, I think like there's so much drumbeat behind him. That I think late season he could smash.
Yeah, I mean, I love Kincaid. He was the guy that jumped out most to me, also because he killed USC majorly in some of the games where they needed to win. But he was so good running out of the slot. Let's make the picks, and I'll give you some more Musgrave sales.
Okay, quarterback. You want to go Love?
Yeah, I think let's get Jordan Love.
Okay, so let's get Love to stack up and correlate. Do we have any other?
Yeah, all of our receivers their QBs are gone, so we're gonna have to do something late here.
Kendre is falling with all the news. We could go. We don't have any correlation.
We could go Singletary, I think. Maybe we could set up. We could set up Stroud with him, which I don't mind as a fallback, because I don't think we need more wide receivers at this point. So I don't want to force you into taking that. But at least, yeah, with Singletary, we get flexibility at the position. I don't think we need another running back necessarily. So we can then theoretically do 2 QBs more if we want.
You know what? I really like Singletary. I just think I like Dameon Pierce. I think he's a good player. I think he was showed a lot his rookie year, but I don't think he is a super great bet in terms of being a full workhorse. Singletary, for as unathletic as he is, as gross as he looks on paper, the Bills still gave him a lot of work for years and years and years. So I think he's going to carve out a role, standalone role, and then he also has some contingent upside as well. So pick 157. I'm great with that.
I think it's a split probability thing where I'm a little worried there's a chance that Dameon Pierce becomes Christian McCaffrey in this bootleg version of the Niners offense they're trying to bring over to the Texans now. But it was weird that Pierce didn't play in that opener, because he's not a vet like Robert Woods, but I think he might be banged up is what would be my, not a concern point with Pierce, but there's no reason to not play him. It's a new offense. New offenses and new coaching staffs usually like to play the guys, even if they are a vet. And then Singletary was out there getting a lot of usage early on, like didn't look great or anything because it's the Patriots, and Stroud also obviously had some flaws in that one. But there's a chance that Singletary could be the lead back still. I don't know that we learned enough from that first game. If Pierce had played, you would learn a little bit more. Because he didn't play, you can kind of read either way. And I think, both would be equally as valid at this point.
I mean, yeah, like it's not like Pierce is like a second round, running back. Like
he was previous regime stuff too. Like that's always bad. Where it's like the previous regime loved this guy. Doesn't mean that these guys coming in, like they might like Singletary's pass protection better, and that just then completely kills like Dameon Pierce's ascendant value.
Coaches love those just reliable guys. Like I feel like Singletary, like for as much as a fantasy community we hate on him, he's just a reliable guy. Like what you're getting from him, and in real life, coaches love that. So.
Yeah, especially a team like the Texans where it's DeMeco Ryans there. They're bringing like Niners principles. The Niners just don't want you to kill them offensively. And then hopefully the defense will carry some weight. And I think, Stroud is more of a gunslinger kind of type of guy. But I think really that offense is going to be about like, how do we make this efficient without risking things too much and let the defense get a shot to keep them in games? And I don't know that Pierce, if he can't block, if he can't pass protect, I think that's the kind of thing that could hurt him more so unless they're in really positive game scripts, which I don't know if the Texans are going to get into that.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like, I think he's most like, not to say that he can't get the third down role, but I think like most of his appeal comes from the early down grinder, like type profile. And yeah, like on a really probably bad team, I don't know if that's the profile I want to bet on.
And if the OL can't hold up either, like then you have Singletary back there because he can maybe help protect Stroud more. So I think there's a couple outs for Pierce to be bad, but I certainly think like, I always think with Bestball, you want to have shares of both sides of the way you could be right.
Yeah, like I think Pierce's ADP is fine. Like, you know what I mean? Where he's going, like he's fine, but it's you want both sides, like you said. Tyler's asking if you could have any player on 100% of your teams, whom would it be?
I think it would be, so this is going to be tough because like I do love AR, but so the thing with AR, and this is the part that people sometimes don't get, where like my exposure to AR is going to be at most, it'll be 25%, I think, by the time everything closes. Because I think there's a 50% chance he is this world beater QB, but because of Bestball, because it's all about players lining up their spike weeks the right way and giving you what you need when you need it. Like there's still a chance that he could be that. And he only has a 50%, or rather a 25% hit rate of being in your lineup in week 17. So I wouldn't take him. I would take Christian Watson. I wish he were like a little bit cheaper so he could fully plant that flag, but he just fits the profile of like this wide open offense with a coaching staff that's got a lot to prove, but is very smart in terms of how they scheme things in the past. Then Rodgers actually wasn't that good last year. So if Love is like basically a little better than Rodgers was, which is a lot to ask, but if he is, like then Watson's going to be even better. And he was already great per touch last year. So I think he's the guy that could be going in the first round next year, and I would make that bet the most. But obviously, we'll see. It's August, so I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of times if you get the 101, you've been taking him at the. Let's pick first, and then we can stand our king Christian Watson a little bit more. Let's see. Quarterback is getting real gross.
I would go Stroud and. We can either take Mechie now. Let's do Stroud and then.
At least we have two quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yes, we have two quarterbacks. That's an important thing. We could do Mechie or try to wait on Tank. Tank is a tough one to pinpoint. We could take Musgrave if we want to get the tight end too.
Yeah, I feel like Musgrave is getting steamed up.
He is. He's jumping the most. I think Mechie is probably a faller.
Yeah, let's go Musgrave. I think. Just with all the news that he's probably going to be a full-time tight end, like I think you have to. I mean, why is he going so much further behind Laporta and Kincaid? Like Laporta and Musgrave were drafted right next to each other, and I know that like the perceived like Packers offense being bad is probably baked into that, and we didn't know what was going to happen with all the other rookie tight end. But yeah, I think now it's wheels up now that we're getting good news. So,
and I think too, like, you look at the guys who we just kind of forced the tight end run there, but he goes ahead of Jake Ferguson. Ferguson would have made sense for our build, but I like Musgrave more. There's a thing that stands out about Musgrave is he was such a downfield target, and like the Green Bay's doing that exact same thing. He only played 2 games last year for Oregon State, but he was just like completely downfield targets, like nothing underneath 10 air yards. His athleticism and all that, and all the vacated targets too, I think bode really well for him. Fucking Tank goes in the 16th round again.
based off of one bobble catch in the end zone.
I like him, man, but he's small and like he's not like it's tough to expect him to do that time and time again. I feel like the Texans are just gonna have a room of like guys catching 5 for 50 and every single week, like that's the leading pass catcher. And I think Stroud's good, but I think this is the year where they just don't have a ton of talent in there to even have a ceiling.
I mean, it's just, I feel like it's just going to bounce around. Like Nico Collins 1 week, it'll be Robert Woods the next week. And it's like, what is the real upside there in probably a rookie quarterback, not a great offense? I don't get the 185 Tank Dell.
Also, Richie James going to the 16 too. For everybody that loved the Richie James preseason game, just think about this. That's probably all Kadarius Toney stuff, I think, is the way you need to look at that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like Richie James if you can get him in the 18th, but in the 16th, I don't know about that.
He's like the guy that I think can still end up getting cut. Like I know he looked good in the one game and he ran some good rounds with Mahomes and whatever, but he's like a vet who they can find similar versions of time and time again. And Justin Ross, at least, they have some draft capital on all that. I don't know. Or, like theoretical draft capital because I think he was undrafted.
Theoretical draft capital. Okay, so let's just recap the team really quick. We have Love and Stroud at quarterback. We have Breece Hall, Alexander Madison, Charbonnet, Jalen Warren, and Devin Singletary, so 5 running backs. We have Amon-Ra, Christian Watson, Jordan Addison, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup, and then at tight end we have Kelsey and Musgrave. I think we can either probably running back and quarterback here. I don't know if we really have a quarterback that really stacks or correlates or anything, but
we'd have to do like a late Mac and somebody kind of thing, which it does feel like it's a three QB build, but unfortunately because of the way we did go wide receiver early, we didn't give ourselves many outs for we have Garoppolo, right? No, we didn't take Adams. Never mind, sorry. Fuck yeah, we don't have anything.
I mean,
I was thinking about the draft I did before in which I had Adams.
We can always do Mac and Hunter Henry if they're both there. Or Gesicki.
Yeah. That could be a way. Or we don't need another receiver really.
Jeff Wilson. We don't really need a running back, but he's falling a lot.
I
want the Spags picks here. What does your brain tell you here?
Who else do we have left at QB?
Okay, so QB we have Jimmy G, Ritter, Mac Jones, Baker.
Did we? Yeah, we didn't take any Indianapolis either.
No,
we didn't take any Buffalo.
We didn't take any Atlanta or Chicago. We didn't take any Las Vegas or what?
Yeah, let's just go Mac and Henry. I think.
Yeah,
let's see, we'll give it. We don't need the floor at tight end with Henry, but you just want to have somebody that correlates with him. I don't love this pocket for us, but yeah, I could do Henry.
Yeah, it just kind of fell weird. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get into those weird spots where you're just like, okay, nothing really pushes you too much one way or the other. But no, I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think the one pivot point that would have been nice for us is if Goff had fallen that one pick, we would have had Goff at QB with Jordan Love. That would have been enough for a 2 QB build, I think, or maybe a luxury 3 QB. Instead, because we took Stroud without strong receiver correlations, it felt like we needed another QB with a correlation. But yeah, like Henry doesn't make the most sense with Kelsey. I feel like you're kind of playing like is Henry ever going to beat Kelsey? Is he ever going to make a lineup over Kelsey this year?
I mean, probably not, but it goes back to like you were saying, like maybe Kelsey busts in week 6.
Yeah.
So
I just would rather make that bet with a younger guy, I think is the issue I have, where part of me feels like maybe we should have gone Garoppolo and Mayer, which honestly would be more representative of my portfolio. But yeah, I think we went with this team has got an okay projection. Like it's okay.
Yeah, we could have done that. Honestly, I didn't even think about it.
It's just we didn't have Indianapolis, so there wasn't a huge benefit. But that's my favorite bailout, like last couple rounds thing, is Garoppolo with Mayer, because you have another rookie tight end who hasn't had any buzz because he's been hurt, which is not great. But Mayer was as good as these guys too, and I think that's easy to forget because he hasn't shown us anything, whether it be athletic articles or in preseason.
Yeah, I think Mayer. I don't think he's that much different than all the other rookie tight ends like we were talking about. And he's sometimes doesn't get drafted. Yeah, he's not going to get drafted here, which I think is a mistake. I think he is an advance rate guy
to get in the 18th, like a guy that could be a 6 to 8 target per game guy.
Yeah, I mean his profile is pretty pristine. Like I know tight ends from like I'm a, like I said, big dynasty guy. We want to bet on the ones with the really good athletic profiles like Musgrave. But I mean, it's hard to discount his production at Notre Dame. So.
And Mayer's going to block. Like if you want to go with the Pat Corain stuff, like he'll be in the block a lot more. I mean, Musgrave, I think, might out of necessity, but like Mayer's a better blocker and he'll create value and play action and stuff just from, that ability.
I know do you have a hard out at 2? You want
to? Yeah, I can give you like 5 more, but just got to get going with some stuff.
Sounds good. Let's just go through a couple of these comments. Yeah, Tyler and I were talking about Jeff Wilson. I just think he's a really good pick at cost right now, especially if you fell that far. I love A-Chain, but I just think, like, is A-Chain really going to be the goal line back? I mean, he does play a lot bigger than his size, but I think there's a little bit of overlap. I know a lot of people have talked about it between Mostert and A-Chain, and I think Wilson kind of has a little bit of a different body type, different role. So I like Wilson a lot.
A-Chain is tough for me because he earned such a high workload at Texas A&M, but he was a lot more efficient the year before when he didn't have the high workload. So like he showed he can get volume, but he's probably not the guy you want to give like 20 plus touches to. But he was okay. It looks like in the red zone, I'm seeing him as a negative 0.109 EPA per rush, which is not good, but he got 4 red zone rushes a game at A&M. And he was a better receiver in the red zone, which I feel like kind of makes sense for Miami. So he's got potential, but it's just like we talked about with ambiguous backfields. Like, yeah, Mostert can get there, Wilson can get there. It's just who's going to be healthy at the end and have the most usage. And the best bet, I think, is A-Chain out of that for if you're going for week 17.
Yeah, bet on the rookie. But yeah, I mean, there is like a 60 pick difference between them. And that's obviously because one's a rookie and kind of has more juice, but I think it's a good arbitrage play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Logan, do you feel like it's way harder to build a team you really like by starting out with Kelsey? I'll answer first quickly, but yeah, I think for me, it's just I like so many of the, like we said, like the rookie tight ends, late round tight ends, going 3 late. There's just so many different options I like to play with and with different correlations, and I feel like it's so hard to build out the Kansas City and the Bengals. So yeah, I would say I don't. A lot of times when I do take Kelsey, it does feel kind of the team around him feels kind of gross to me.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the issue with any of the onesie positions. Like, I kind of think the same thing about elite QBs, except, sometimes you're stacking them up, or hopefully you are. But, like, you feel less bad about it if you get Hurts with one of Devonta or Brown or somehow both. But, like, for tight end, it's like you might get Mahomes, you might not get Mahomes. And even if you do get Mahomes, then you blew 2 early picks on onesie positions and you're not getting receivers and running backs in. So it does feel like it's a team that you like less, but we know what the advance rate tax was last year for Kelsey. So if he is that again, you're going to still feel pretty good about it, even if in the process you're not enjoying it as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team we drafted, I think we have pretty solid upside at like every spot. Quarterback is a little gross, but I mean, all you need is just one guy in the finals to just go off, and we have like we said, Christian Watson. So I mean, whatever, he can give you a 30 burger. To pair.
And if Love runs a little more, the floor is going to be better. Like, Love should be able to run. He hasn't shown it yet, but like I think that helps. And I kind of like the ugly 3 QB builds. This one's a little uglier than probably even you would want. But like 3 QB builds are nice because that's the way you're really getting leverage against the elite QBs, I think. Like Hurts should advance well, like he should play well. Allen should, like they all should. But if you want to really get, the more narrow outcomes, it's with the late QBs trying to hope you get a 25-point week in a week where Hurts gives you 20 because the Eagles didn't need it.
No, I definitely agree. I think just gives you a lot of outs.
Yeah.
Well, Spags, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate you. I like that you're pushing me off my spots. You're hyping up your players. It's been a great Bestball summer, and I wish you the best in the next couple weeks.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Bindles. Of course, give my cosign to Bindles, a guy who's been in our chat and been around the Pete Overs at Deposit Kingdom community for a while. And I'm glad you're trying out your own stuff here and glad to be a part of it and happy to help with whatever little influence I have. Much better at 101s than driving YouTube views, unfortunately.
but go check out Splash Play. What else is going on with you? I know you're drafting a lot. I see your streams constantly. So
yeah, doing 5 days a week of drafts on the @Splash Play Pod channel on YouTube. So that'll keep going on for a little bit. And I'm figuring out what we're doing for football season because my job at Football Outsiders has been a mess for 4 months now, and they owe us money, and we got to figure that out. But I'll be doing Splash Play and then some streams for Stochastic, it looks like, and maybe some more fun ones. But figuring it out as I go, flying by the seat of my pants. I just need to win to 3 million in Bestball Mania. That's all that matters.
My girlfriend keeps being like, so you're gonna win the 3 million? Can we move to Europe? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, and but yeah, we're having Justin Herzig on Wednesday. I reached out to him on Twitter, and he's joining people's streams, so that should be a fun one on Wednesday. Everyone hop in on that one. But Spags, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Yep, same here, man. Thanks, Bindles.
Deuces, everyone.